Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out for tonight's presentation on Wicomico County Public Schools boundary study. Our school boundary planning team has been meeting for several months, looking at lots and lots of different options. All those are still available for you to review on the website. And since that time, we've narrowed things down to two options we're going to present today. That's not to say that either one of these is going to be fun. We want to continue getting input. We'll have opportunities for you to provide input today, as well as continuing online. So I want to share some information with you today, let you know sort of how we got to where we are now, what the process was, and then give you a chance to walk around and take a look at the maps that are sharing these options, and give you a chance to talk to those of us on the school boundary planning team. If you have any questions, get those answered, and then again, make sure, you can tell us whatever you want verbally, but make sure that you get your thoughts and questions captured on the survey form that's online, and Matt will share information about that. When it comes to the part of the meeting where we're going around and taking a look at the maps, if you would need the services of a Spanish or Haitian Creole interpreter, we do have those here. Just let me know if you need one, and I'll make sure you get the help you need. That said, I'll turn things over to our consultant from Cropper GIS, who's been working with us through this process. They're a leading firm that helps school districts across the country do school boundary adjustments, and we're really lucky to have their work and produce some of the things you're going to see today. So with that said, this is Matt Cropper from Cropper GIS.
Thank you, Dr. Rager, and thank you everybody for coming tonight. We really appreciate your participation and having you guys here. We have been preparing for the past several months for tonight to have you give us your thoughts on the maps that are being considered for the school district here. So the purpose of us being here is for you to learn how the process has been working, to review maps, and so we've got one set of maps over here and one set over here. We have 2 elementary options, 2 middle school options, and then only 1 high school option. So the option A has elementary, middle, and high school, but the B series only has elementary and middle, and then the high school is unaffected in the B series of maps. So we'll get your insights on these and have conversations with you after this presentation. But like Dr. Rager said, the most important thing is for you to complete a survey. All of this is being recorded and live streamed, and we'll have a copy of the presentation online. And all of these materials are also online. So you can tell people who couldn't make it tonight that they can also participate in the survey, learn about what's going on, and so you don't have to be here to participate in this process. So Cropper GIS Consulting, we're a planning firm, and this is the kind of work that we do all across the United States. We were hired to help support the process by providing materials and maps and information and statistics. We also leverage our experience in doing this on a day-to-day basis. I think we're working on about maybe 20 different redistricting or boundary planning studies across the country. So we bring a lot of experience on how other communities have addressed the challenges like this. And then we also have a background in technology with mapping. So we map out students and we make really good, accurate assessments and estimates on if we move a line, this is what the numbers will look like. So that's what we're here to do to help. We're also a third party from out of town, and there's value to that because we don't have kids in this district. I don't have any agenda or any bias, and so we're coming with a clean point of view, just looking at data and numbers and being able to separate any bias away from it, which is very hard to do when you're talking about moving families and moving children on potentially. So I'm Matthew Cropper and been working with you guys on this, and honored to be working with you, this community. So let's talk about some of the stakeholders, people who are involved in the process. I've talked enough about the consultant, but we have a school boundary planning team, and this is made up of central office staff, people from transportation, from special programs. We have some people who are in charge of staffing and things like that around the table, working through options and developing scenarios. We also have some community members involved who are on the team to give us their insights as it relates to some of their perspectives. And this is the group that's been working on building maps in preparation for tonight. You as a general public, we've already kicked off this process a few months ago to tell you how you can follow the process through the website and things like that. And you're critical. We've been looking at your information, and we're really looking forward to hearing what you have to say about these maps after tonight, and giving us your thoughts as we continue to work towards a recommendation. The Board of Education gives us sort of the high-level goals, charge, tell us what to do. They answer policy-related things, but the board will be the ones who ultimately decide and vote on a plan. Nothing's going to be final until the board approves a plan later in early part of 2025. So this is our process, our timeline. You can see we've been working since June and preparing for this. We did some public information sessions at in August and September to show you where you can get to the website and start giving us some input before even maps started to really show up. We've been working with the boundary planning team, so if you go online, you'll see some of the old meetings, you'll see some maps and things that were being considered. They were working through at the very beginning on developing as many scenarios as they can, and then they've ruled them out, narrowed down to 2 maps. So the 2 maps that you see tonight are the 2 maps for elementary, middle, and then the 1 map for high school are the maps that they feel best meet our objectives. And so the old maps are not really on the table, but the new maps are what I would focus on if you go back and look at some of the past work that the team has done. So here we are in November, sharing these maps with you. And then after this, we're going to have a survey that runs till December 9th. And then we're going to be regrouping again with the boundary planning team before the holiday break, and then coming back and finalizing a recommendation to the board, and that will be presented to the board on January the 7th. Then after that, once we deliver that recommendation, it's still a draft. It's in the board's hands then, and then the board has the ability to evaluate, assess, hear more input from the public, and potentially make changes to the maps. So they'll have a public hearing on the 14th where you can come and voice your thoughts about the maps directly to the school board. And then the 28th, there's going to be another potential work session if there are boundary changes that they feel should be considered as a result of this, some of the input that you provide. And then February 11th is when the board is anticipated to vote on a boundary plan to take effect. So why are we doing this? Why is there a need to move boundaries for the areas? This is mostly driven by elementary schools. The elementary schools are kind of all over the place right now. There's some elementary schools that are severely overcrowded, like the one that we're sitting in right here. I think this is about 159% of its capacity. And so, but there are other schools in the area in this county that are well below 100%. And then there are some that are running right close to the average. So really what we need to do is balance out the number of kids in each building so that there's an equitable amount of space and provide relief to the schools that are the most overcrowded. Prince Street being the most overcrowded. Del Mar is not part of the study because they have an agreement with Delaware, with the state of Delaware, and the nuances of the bi-state agreement that they have. It makes it more complicated. So Del Mar is not impacted, but any other school in the county could be affected as part of this study. We're looking at middle and high schools, but really trying to keep it at a minimum. You'll see on the numbers that only like very small numbers of middle and high school would be affected as part of this. Middle and high school adjustments are being made just to try to align with elementary changes that are being made. And so the focus is mostly on elementary here. These are our rules to follow. These are sort of what we call criteria, study factors. These are what we always go to, and this is what I would tell you as members of the public, when you start to provide us input, tell us things as it relates to these study factors, because these are the ones this is what we are focusing on. So educational welfare, that's something that really comes along for the ride. If we're providing a capacity relief and balancing utilization, we're enabling and maximizing the educational welfare of students and making it equitable. And frequency of boundary changes, this doesn't really apply for us now because there hasn't been a boundary change in this county for quite some time. But things like proximity to schools. So try to assign students as close to their home as possible while adhering to these other criteria. Student demographics. What are we doing? And we move an area, how are we affecting the demographics of the school? Are we making it more demographically diverse, or are we starting to make it less? What we want to try to do is, if at all possible, enable and enhance the demographic distribution of students and diversity. Try not to make things worse and make things less demographically diverse than they are. Feeder patterns, so this is looking at the elementary to middle school. How much of an elementary feeds to middle school? How much of middle school feeds to high school? So we've got that for, we have that for the current on the tables, and we also have it for the options. The impact on neighborhoods and communities. So looking at where you'll see that we count how many kids are being moved. In any option, we're trying to minimize the number of kids that are moved. And looking at programs, we're trying to make sure that we do everything that doesn't affect where the programs are. We don't want to overload a building with kids living in the zone that has a program that bringing kids in from out of zone and then causing it to negatively impact that program. So we're accounting for that. And then the capacity that we're working with is the capacity that's delivered by the state. The state defines the capacity of each school, trying to meet those capacity numbers in your buildings. And then be mindful of not only the current students, but students in the future as well. And then finally, geographic features. Am I good? Okay. So geographic features, just looking at, trying to draw the lines down major roads, if it's a major road, in the rural areas, both sides of the road. There's a lot of waterways and things like that here in this county, so looking at that, be mindful of some of those things as you draw the lines. The committee or the boundary planning team has worked, like I showed you on the timeline, quite some time, working through the numbers, and you'll see the data and, on these tables in the back. It's the same information that we're sharing with you, is the same information that this boundary planning team has been working with. And like I said, everything is still draft. So we're looking at recommending one map, one set of maps, elementary, middle, and maybe high school, to the board for their consideration and approval, and not more than one. And nothing's final until the board approves a plan. When you look at maps, you'll see what looks like black and white dashed outlines. These are what we call planning blocks. Within each planning block has a planning block number, and then the number of kids that live within each planning block. This helps the planning team know how many kids live in different areas throughout the district, and also helps you guys get a better understanding of the impact of if one area stays or goes, how many kids would it potentially be. So I would tell you that you can help with, if you know what planning block you're in, you can tell us in the survey. If not, you can tell us the general area that you're coming from, and that will be helpful for us. So let's talk about some of the data when you see this. So when you look at the table here, this shows you the enrollment and utilization of all the schools right now. So everything that's green are within 10 percentage points of the total area average. So your county minus Del Mar, your elementaries are 103% full. So there's not much space to work with. Everything that's in yellow is within 10 to 15 percentage points of that average. And then you look at the reds are ones that are over 15 percentage points above the average. So these are the ones that are the most critically overcrowded. You've got Northwestern, Pinehurst, and Prince Street. And then the blue are greater than 15 percentage points below the average. So you can see that some of these are 78.9, 82%, when the area we have is 103%. The goal is to try to get things in the green. So when you look at this, the options, you can see how much less green, yellow and red, or yellow, red, and blue are in these scenarios. And so this tells you that we're taking a lot of imbalances, highs and lows, and in the map we're bringing them more into balance so that they're equitable in terms of the amount of space that's available, and providing capacity relief to the schools that have the greatest needs, the reds, but then also bringing students into schools that are in the blue to try to balance things out. We have impact data on the back. This tells you option A is 850 impacted, and B has about 700 students impacted. And this tells you how many students go from school to school. So in option A, 89 students get moved from Beaver Run, East Salisbury to Willards, Pittsville. 29 go from Chipman, Glen Ave to Fruitland, primary intermediate. So these all add up to this total, the tan colored cells. Feeder pattern splits, this tells you the percentage. So this Beaver Run and East Salisbury in option A feed 100% into Wicomico Middle. And then you can see Chipman and Glen Ave gets split between two middle schools, 47 and 53. We want to try to have 100%. 100% is the most ideal, but it's not achievable always. If you have to split a school, it's better to have it be a balanced split like this. What we want to avoid is having 90% at one and 10% at another. Trying to get rid of the real small splits. Thinking of kids going from elementary to middle, making friends at elementary, they get to middle school, it's a scary time, having some familiar faces and friends. You want to, and you can you enable that by having a better balance so that a good number of kids travel with them if they do get impacted or they do get split. We have WCPSBoundaryStudy.org is a website that has all the materials that we're sharing tonight. The survey is on that site, so I highly encourage you to go there. We also have an online interactive map that really helps. You can type in your address right here, and it'll zoom in on your address, and it'll tell you if a green notification if you're not impacted, and a red a notification if you are, and what schools you would be in any particular option. So this is a useful tool. I'll have it up on my iPad too when we're having conversations if we want to look at things. These large maps with a county this large, they only show so much detail. You start to lose some things. So the online map is a really good reference point. Looking at the zones, these are your current boundaries, and every map has the county-wide, and then we have an inset map that shows the area around the city. So this is Prince Street Elementary School in the current, and then when you look at the option, the option shows the background, the black outline are the current boundaries. So this is the Prince Street boundary, the current boundary, and you can see how much smaller the Prince Street zone gets in option A. So this is the current, and then in option A. And then you look at option B, it's a little bit different. So you can see some of the areas shift around and move a little bit, and some don't. So when you look at the map, you'll see the background color is the option, and then the bold black outline are the current zones. Middle schools. Let me go back one real quick for option A. You can see one of the things that you'll see is this area east of Beaver Run gets fed into Willard's Pittsville, and this exists in both maps. And then there's an area of Northwestern up here that feeds into West Side in option A. And then there's a part of West Side up here that feeds down into West and North Salisbury. And then there's also some shifting that happens. There's kind of a domino effect in order to balance utilization. A impacts more students than option B. And you can see Prince Street sends some students over here to Glen Avenue, and then east of Route 12 into Glen Avenue. And then area around Salisbury University, this area, there are some families in this area and kids that are going to Pinehurst. And then a little bit part up here on the other side of the waterway here goes from Pinehurst to Pemberton. A little bit of shifting happening here. This is also Pinehurst going into Chapman. If you look at option B, same thing, it's just a little bit different. A little Fruitland stretches up into this area that was Prince Street, going into Fruitland, and then the same area for Willard's, Beaver Run to Willard's, Pittsville, and a little bit different area, but mostly the same, feeding from Northwestern into West Side in this particular map. If you're looking at middle schools, again, keeping middle schools as minimal impact as possible. There's just this Willard's, Pittsville area that we moved out of Wicomico Middle into Pittsville. It's a K-8 kind of model out here. So that's one of the that's the only area in option A that's affected. And then in B, that same area moves, but then we move another area that's currently in Bennett into Wicomico Middle. So that's option B for middle. High school, current zones, and then in the option, the only area that's moved is an area right here that's currently in Parkside, and this area is off of Johnson Road area. This area feeds into James M. Bennett High School in this particular option A map. There is no option B map for high school because high schools stay the same for option B if that were to be considered. So tonight we want to have this presentation to kind of give you a lay of the land, and then we're going to invite you guys to come look at the maps. You'll see anybody who has wearing a red lanyard are people who are on the boundary planning team, and then we also have our interpreters. So if you look for somebody with the red lanyard, you'll be able, they'll give you more, be able to answer questions and help talk you through it. But we encourage you to fill out the survey, tell us your thoughts, but make it constructive. Tell us what you think about the maps and give us your feedback as it relates to those study factors. That's the most important thing. We've got that web page I talked about, wcpsboundarystudy.org. These QR codes will take you right to the survey. And so you could see those. You should have probably picked up. If you didn't pick it up, we have them here, some one-page handouts for you. You've got your QR code here that you could fill out the survey right away. It gives you some key dates on it and things like that. So this is something for you to take home. And then there's a general feedback form. You can also fill out that if you want, but the survey is the most important. All this is going to be presented to the board on January 7th, right after the new year, to a recommendation to the board. I think that's all we have for the presentation. Hope I didn't talk too long, but we really thank you guys for coming out, and we look forward to talking with you around the maps. Like I said, we have a duplicate set over here and a duplicate set over here, and we'll work to the maps and have conversations with you. And thank you again for coming, and hope you have a happy Thanksgiving if we don't talk to you.
Thank you, Matt. Again, if you need services of an interpreter for Haitian Creole, or Spanish, let me know, and I'll get you set up with that. Otherwise, please take some time to take a look at the maps and complete the survey. We'll be around if you have any questions. But again, make sure any real concerns or questions get input into the survey so we capture that. Thank you.